What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about to be that time.
What's up, everybody? We're here. One Piece, 1167. Fun fact, this is 200 chapters of Randy making content. First piece of content I ever, chapter that I ever did for YouTube was 967. So I was very inspired by Roger's journey, reaching Laugh Tale. I was like, okay, I gotta find people to talk about this stuff with. And here we are, 200 chapters later. More than 5 years later, I think. Yeah, probably close to 6. It's crazy. So, but you know, we just had Thanksgiving, and you know, it's something to be thankful for, having this community. And I appreciate all of you, and I'm excited to get into this this chapter, see what it holds, see if it is in keeping with 967, which, you know, I was talking about last week that I hope that it would be. I saw somebody in the chat say that this is a suit chapter, which made me feel like that, you know, needed to really show out. I didn't have enough time to put on a suit. No one told me ahead of time, so I just threw on the blazer, the One Piece varsity jacket, just something quick. I did just see in the Discord that Joy-Boy's voice actor is the OVA Luffy, which is awesome. So, let's see, and to celebrate 200 chapters of Randy Troy content, here's some gift memberships. Because as always,
together we're stronger.
Together. Shout out to Dawn Knight 1993 member.
Together we're stronger.
Liking the stream increases the streamer's serotonin levels, so what are you waiting for? Yeah. And I want to shout out Veronica, who sent a donation before the stream. Last week there were, you know, there was some theories from her son. This week we get some more. Lafitte has the harpy fruit. An angel will have both arms and wings. I mean, we know that Lafitte has white wings that are probably connected to some form of devil fruit, because he can have the wings and not have the wings, and it's a great explanation for how he got up to Warlord meeting at Jaya Castle. I am on board with the idea that Lafitte has an angel fruit, because I have this theory that there's just going to be a lot of things that are going to be like really angelic about Blackbeard's crew as we get deeper, even though, you know, he's filled with darkness, just because Luffy's crew is embracing the King of Hell, Demon Child, like all of that. I like the idea of, like, if Lafitte has an angel fruit, like it's a, you know, it's the opposite. So if there's more of that as we get further into things with Blackbeard's crew, I think that that's fun. Loki has the Boar fruit model, Gulin Bursty, one of 6 gifts, a golden boar that is a symbol of light defeating darkness. Now, I'm not familiar with this lore, but I mean, that's a deep cut, and I like that. And then the last one is Man Marked by Flames is Louis Arnault. Now this one I am a fan of. You know, I wanted it to be Yorkie, but I think that we know so little about Louis Arnault that the idea that was presented by Lafitte that the man marked by flames could be a government or, you know, marine affiliated type person. We know so little about Louis Arnault that we could get lore that like they were a part of the government, that they, you know, were an explorer, but were also affiliated with these things. So, not out of the question. Luke said, off topic. Jude thought you were talking to us on my phone, so he came over and was waving. I am talking. I'm talking directly to you, Luke and Jude. Hi. um. Just looking at the chat here before we get into the chapter. Shout out to everybody. I'm pulling up the chapter. Get into this. The page thing up. Ty, how you doing, man? Ida's Sons. Okay. Reader request. Genzo and Nojiko scolding a cat trying to steal a book, but they're not really mad. I saw this cover and I thought we were getting Decks of the World and got excited, and then I saw a reader request and I was like, oh, right. But you know what? I'll take it as canon. Right. Starting off the ground with some big news. Okay, 33 years ago. 5 years after God Valley. Time jump! Okay. We were freaking out that there were pirates off the coast when all of a sudden an enormous figure appears out of the mist behind them. Okay. Sea floor prison impaled down. Boom. And the next thing I knew, the ship was in splinters. We were sunk in a matter of seconds. Yeah, by a Neptunian, right? No, it was like human. Did this event take place in the Florian Triangle? Not even close. Think there's any fish worth catching out there? You ain't gonna go near it. And shout out to this employee of the World Economic newspaper, Reuters. This was we haven't seen this guy in a long time, but they were first introduced during Marineford and commented on the news about Ace being Roger's son. So it's a fun connection to see that this guy's been riding with Morgans for this long. Well, I can say it was a monster in human form. This time, the countries of the Grand Line were abuzz with a frightening rumor, a tale of a lurking monster that struck its targets, mostly pirate ship from the deeper mists out at sea. Okay, we got a giant ship here. So is this Harald? Is this Loki, going off on his own? What could this be? It's Harald. In truth, this monster was Harald. But to the people on the sea who'd never seen a giant before, the experience was pure terror. As part of his sworn oath of 1,000-year atonement, Harald assisted the Marines' efforts to uphold order. So we ended the last chapter with Harald trying to find a way for atonement. So now his atonement is to sail the seas and strike down pirates. Technically, he could be a warlord. That would be a fun, thing. And it's like he actually takes the job of being a warlord so seriously. Mostly pirate ships, though. Yeah, that is a good point to pull out. He's not just attacking pirates. He's attacking a lot of things here. Next page. Meanwhile, the pirates who scattered to the winds after God Valley, Kaido, Whitebeard, Big Mom, would grow in power over the next decade or two until they reached their primes. Became the faces of their era. Are we jumping 20 years already? Okay, we got Wangzhe, we got Shiki. All the while, as pirates around them focused on claiming territory. Okay, so we're seeing Caribou's daddy while we're talking about claiming territory because we know exactly what he did. One crew achieved the seemingly impossible and succeeded in circumnavigating the globe. Crew led by the king of the pirates, Gold Roger. When he was captured sometime later and publicly executed, the world government assumed it would serve as a demonstration of their strength. However, so we're skipping past the collection of Buggy, all of that. We're going straight to Mustache Roger, going right to the execution. So 967, he laughed. 1167, going right back to chapter 1. The allure of his massive fortune in One Piece sent the world into an era of frenzied madness. To counteract the arrival of the unforeseen great era of piracy, Navy headquarters recruited over a dozen giants from various regions in the hopes of bolstering their ranks. You see some of the giants that we eventually see at Marineford. Harald, meanwhile, who had been faithfully serving as a tool of the Marines, was finally given official access to the Holy Land this year. An ancient giant, they say, it was huge. I wanted as a slave. A Shallow's Covenant. Next page. Indeed, you are now a trusted weapon Holy Knights of God. A devoted blade. It's an honor. Covenant has 3 stages. Shallow's Covenant is but a mere trace of a bond. But Depths Covenant and Abyssal Covenant are reserved for only 13 exclusive individuals who can enter into a contract with the true God. What is this God you speak of? If the day should come that you are made a proper knight, then you will know the truth in the depths of the world. And is that when Elbaf will be allowed to join the government? Of course, Harald. It will be announced to the world, and you will be welcomed. I am grateful for this honor. I'll do anything you ask of me. This carrot on a stick. So sloppy. Alright. Shangara. Probably a play on Shangri-La. The Knight's Temple, Land of the Gods. We got Garling here. What is the Great One thinking? Can the King of Elbaf actually take orders? We got Shamrock here. Of course, your word is my command. We will call if we need you. Keep a long-distance transponder snail on your person. You're free to visit the lower world, but you will not speak a word of what goes on here. Understood. Next page. 20 years ago, Fishman Island, Ryugu Kingdom. Ho 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 ho, bara ha 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 ha. Okay, we got Harald hanging out with Neptune. This is interesting. It's been too long since I had a good laugh, Neptune. The same, my friend, the same. We have too many troubles on our minds. We got two men here that really want to be recognized by the government. Odahime did. And Odahime should be alive. So, be interested to see this interaction. First of all, no. I very much doubt your son is some kind of demon child. I mean, can he possibly be worse than you were? Well, when you put it that way. Actually, a fortune teller told me that I would receive a daughter 4 years from now. What do you say? We can betroth your Loki to my daughter. Forget about it. Listen, I'm not talking about any ordinary mermaid. Supposedly, she might be born with wild, disruptive powers. In that case, it sounds like a match made in heaven. Let's have a toast to the future of my little brat and your shaggy daughter. She will not be shaggy. Loki's long-distance pen pal, Shirahoshi? You getting Mosa? Mosa is Shirahoshi? Or is it Neptune? Okay, we'll have to revisit that. Is this why Shirahoshi was constantly turning down Vanderdecken? She was talking to Loki, which isn't much better because she's still 16. Anyway. That year, Owl Library, Elbaf. Of course you can settle down here. Saul. I appreciate that. But I wanted to ask you something. What was that? Would you join with the educated of Elbaf and open a school here? A school sounds nice. "15 years ago." Okay, we just jumping around. This is what I wanted. We talked about this last week, that like over the, there's an opportunity here to sort of like dive into things that happened. Now this is an angle of the Fisher Tiger element that we never saw. There's a shocking incident in Holy Land. "My slaves have escaped. They've broken their cages open. Get out, hurry. You want to spend your life in chains?" Huff, huff. Okay. Oh boy. Fisher Tiger and Shamrock? I've left the armory unlocked. Here's how to get there. Or is this Shanks? This might have to be Shanks. So Shanks helped free the slaves. It's gotta be Shanks. We're going to be talking about that and the implications of that. I love that. All right, explosions all around. Is that gunpowder? Hurry, sister. Sandersonia. Someone's coming. They're fighting for us. We can escape this hell. Hurry, Koala. We're getting out of here. Okay, that person is shadowed. Who is that supposed to be? I mean, just we're here. Just tell us. Just tell me. Don't. Why are we holding back already? This incident, caused by the future captain of the Sun Pirates, Fisher Tiger, is known as the ransacking of Sacred Marijois. We've seen this panel before. This is just a recreated panel here. Boa, Sandersonia, and Marigold running. The detail does not offer any new elements to where we can like pinpoint anybody else in the background, which if we were going to redraw this panel, that would have been a fun element. Moving on. Sounds like it was quite the night. I'm thinking someone from our side might have opened up the armory to him, so we're looking for the rat now. Put him to death. Well, allow me to introduce you. This is Shanks. Huh? He's the younger brother of Shamrock, separated after birth. He's been through the gauntlet of the lower world, but if entered into a Depth's Covenant, will be an instant boost, likely on the level of Shamrock. Time being, we'll use him as a devoted blade of God like you. The same thing with Shamrock at first, but yeah, we met before. I don't know you, you great lumbering peon. How dare you speak to me as if we're equals? I've always had the blood of Figurland in my veins. Mark my words, I'll be a knight before you. That was my mistake. So, Shanks has already fought Blackbeard at this point? Let's go, Shamrock. Tell me more about the Holy Land. I want to be the hero who captures the one responsible for the attack. Any clues? There's still time to do this once your wound is healed, Shanks. You don't know how it feels to learn that you've wasted 24 years of your life. I always knew I was different from the others. Devoted Blade of God, Saint Shanks.
You loyal.
Cone Killer Confuser, remember for 37 months, said Mike is dropping audio. If I talk directly into the mic, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So that's just what it is. It's basically that I'm not. Okie dokie. I hated everything down there. I'm unsure what to believe, but we'll talk about that. That year, Fisherman Village, Elbaf. Nope, can't help. I don't know enough about medicine. Let's call Harald and ask him to send a doctor. Send a good doctor with proper stuff. No, you can't. He's busy with his job. What's a government connection good for if not this? Just watch. I'll get better on my own. Seems to me you've been getting worse by the day. Harald would be heartbroken if he sees you like this. You run the bar for me, Mato. No, not when you're sick. You know what Harald does each time he comes home? He visits all the elders and asks to make you his true wife. The fool. I prefer running that little bar. Meeting all those sailors from far-off lands makes me feel like I've been helping Harald out in my own little way. Next page. Hey, outsider hag, Loki. Got some fresh meat to feed her. The bar's a nice, chill place for me to hang out at. I need it open again. He's gotten bigger, but he's still the same impudent brat inside. You're the only one who can tame that little beast. Hiredin's off with his comrades, searching overseas for a doctor for you. So both of your sons have a lot of love for you. You're all making a big deal out of nothing. I'm just fine. That's real sweet of them, though. Next page. Brewer's Village, Loki's mother's home. Elbaf. Okay, this one's a double pager. Okay. What'd you say? I said, we don't want that outsider woman becoming the queen. You agree with that, right, Loki? Estrid's the true queen, and she's from our people. They can't take away our fortune and status. So we gave that wench a little poison. These ergot spores won't stop once they've taken root. It's certain death. Mato, get in touch with Harald at once. It doesn't matter if we're not related by blood. Loki's my dear sweet boy, just like Harald is. Loki, stop. Ida ain't gonna die, is she? I remember what my real mother did. She cast me out of the tree into the underworld. You want fortune? You people make me sick. Ida ain't gonna die, is she? Because she's the only mother I have. Loki's just lonely. That's all. Wanna live with us? That's crazy. Jacob said Harold's clearly okay with slavery here. Stocks plummeting further. Oh yeah. Harold stocks down. Loki stocks up. Shanks stocks holding. Like, I don't know what we would get if it was actually Shamrock helping Fisher Tiger. I think that Shanks is pulling an inside job here. I think this is like part of Big Brain Shanks' plan. Shanks probably got caught sometime after Roger's execution. Well, considering that Shanks said you don't know how it feels to learn that you've wasted 24 years of your life, that says to me that Shanks spent 24 years in the quote lower world, and didn't get brought to the Holy Land until he was 24. How old's Shanks when he meets Luffy? Somebody's probably done the math by now. Shanks is like, what, 38 now? That was 10 years ago. He had to have been 28. So did he spend 4 years in the Holy Land? Or did he jump back out? No, he's 36. It's gotta be 36 pre-time skip, so 26 when he meets Luffy, right? I mean, that's just assuming I'm right about the 38 thing, which I'm just pulling out of thin air from my head. 27 meeting Luffy. Okay. He's 24 here. So there's 3 years of time. Now, my question is, how old was he when he showed up to recruit Yasop to his crew? Like, were the red-haired pirates already a thing before this, disbanded, then got back together? Shanks is 39. Okay. That was 1 year off. Shanks recruited Yasop 22 years ago, so he already had a pirate crew. So we knew we were going to get something like this and see Shanks being in the Holy Land because he has the tattoo. And we saw the tattoo when he was in the hot spring with Scopper. So we knew this was coming. And Shanks is saying some really reckless stuff that doesn't seem like Shanks. And I don't think that it's a situation where Shanks is playing I mean, it could be. I mean, I've never been a fan of evil Shanks. So if we get, like, if we're seeing the real Shanks here, and then he's playing a game in the lower world, I don't like it. fact that he rescued the slaves shows that the teaching that he got from Roger still sticks. He may be here against his own will, but he also may be here of his own volition. Like, if he learned about this and he knows that, like, certain things about what happened at Laugh-Tale, right? This may have been a reconnaissance mission. Like, okay, I've got to play this game. I've got to learn some information. I've got to dismantle this from the inside. This is exactly everything that I wanted with Garp and the Marines, but with Shanks and the world government. And, like, that's cool. That's cool. We've talked about it before, where it's very clear that Rayleigh, Scopper, and Shanks have some sort of a plan, and that plan kind of revolves around Luffy in a way. There's an element of a promised day, a promised time, something to do with the Nika fruit, and I think Shanks is here for information. And then the moment that he finds out about the Nika fruit getting transported, that may be the moment that the Red Hair Pirates reactivate. He may have, like, Beckman, Yasop, and the others, like, waiting in the wings, like, just with a long call transponder snail, and then it's like Shanks is gonna make his call, and then they're all gonna meet up.
You loyal.
Jack Who's Who, and get that fruit and disappear into the East Blue for a little. But considering also that Shanks has his scar now, and it's like a recent wound, it might imply that Shanks had a fight with Whitebeard or Blackbeard, you know, and it's like their fight is what ultimately got him caught and sent to the government, which would add another, like, coincidental parallel to what happened to Ace being Roger's son and being caught by the government because they fought Blackbeard. He had a scar as of the Fisher Tiger incident. Yeah, obviously, because he was there. But it's still fresh. So what I'm saying is that had to... There's no way that Blackbeard fought Shanks here in the Holy Land. So what I'm saying is it happened somewhere in the Grand Line or in the Blues. Shanks fights Blackbeard, loses, and gets caught by the government, and then extradited to the Holy Land. We got Kev Dog in the chat. Said, I actually like the idea of Shanks laying low because that reminds me a lot of how Blackbeard would act. Very fun parallel. Oh, absolutely. Shanks is playing a long game here in the same way that Blackbeard's playing a long game. And I don't think that either of them realize that their goals are not that dissimilar. Because I do feel like Blackbeard also wants to take down the government. Must said, do you think the Figureland blood is what Roger told Shanks? No. I don't know. I feel like there's probably an element of believing that the One Piece could have cured Roger or something, and then it's like him telling Shanks like, hey, it's over. It's a wrap.
Savage.
We were too early. Or, you know, it's a passing of the baton thing. Like Roger tells him, like, look, I'm gone. These are all the things that need to happen, though. And I hate to put this on you, but it's you. You're next. I don't know. I don't know how or when Shanks would have found out, or for that matter, Roger would have found out. Because it's not like there was a note in the treasure chest. I don't see. There's a world where Roger went his entire life raising Shanks and having no idea. So King Sorrowful Superman said, Wapple looks intimidating in live action. Makes me excited to see Mr. 3. Crocodile, what Crocodile's costume looks in live action. Just wait. You look great, though. PFOW 916, member for 54 months. Sorry, PFOW, I don't know what your original name was. Before YouTube started doing this app thing. Shanks is a spy. He stole
I'm about to make a name for
after
myself,
joining
yeah.
the Knights. Then his arm with the Shallow's Covenant get eaten and became free again.
Savage.
I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like Shanks does have the Mark of the Abyss somewhere. Because he just appears places. So I feel like he's got to eventually like learn this ability and like he can teleport with this stuff. Shout out to K Pro. The big super appreciate that.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself, yeah.
K Pro said, I'd like to formally apologize for having doubts. Oda's too good when he ties things up and makes connections. I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but Goda strikes again. Harald looking like he's about to snitch on Shanks and make one last mistake. When would Harald have met Shanks, though? Prior to this? That's the thing that I'm missing. Isn't there a part in the chapter where Harold's like, hey, I recognize you? I mean, Roger had to go to Elbaf, but why not show us this? Or are we saving that for the eventual Shanks flashback? But I agree with you, K Pro. I mean, we're definitely tying some things up. I wish we would have stayed a little bit in the Roger story a little bit to get like maybe some buggy lore and all that, but we essentially got everything that I talked about last week. Of after finishing God Valley, what did I want? I wanted to like jump through the years and keep telling things that we need to like get us back to where we are and get us back on track. We're getting that. So that's great. I love this. Just KKII said, just realized Roger is a different design in East Blue. Those old designs are like a cozy RPG. Miss him, but One Piece has evolved and I'm happier. Thoughts? I am pretty sure that Ace being Roger's son was not in Oda's original plans. I don't know what those original plans were, but I think it was a late add. So when Oda designed Ace, he didn't initially like do it so that Ace looked like Roger or that Roger looked like Ace. But I think that Oda has been retconning it, and that's why Roger looks more like Ace in the God Valley flashback. And Roger looks, different in the Odin flashback also than he does in his execution. So it's just Oda, like letting the story evolve. That's what I see. Seal Vladivanovici Superin said, if Ida dies, I can see a scenario where Harald denies a saddened Loki from grieving after all he's done, even blaming him to some extent. I mean, to get Harald as mad at Loki as he is, maybe. Because here's the thing, right? If Loki kills all the people that know that Ida was poisoned, then Harald comes back, sees a burned village, and is just like, Loki, what'd you do? Like, you killed all these people and Mom? But the fact that Loki is casually walking around the day that Harald gets Domi reversied makes me think that Harald's anger for Loki is entirely based on him killing Harald. So I think that if that played out the way that you have it there, with Harald like telling Loki he can't even be sad for Ida, that would make me mad at Harald. That would like genuinely make me feel like Harald is a piece of garbage, and I like Harald a lot. So I don't want that just because it would make me feel a different way about Harald than I want to. Barry said, Mama Barry wants to say she loves your glasses. Thank you. Appreciate that. Kip said, I like the Shirahoshi reveal. Seems so fitting that she is Mosa. Yeah, I do love that, except for the fact that she's 16. And Loki is 63. So, kind of feels like when Loki tells Lola that she's not his type, it's because his type is mermaids with really crazy powers to control sea kings that are also 16 years old. Alex isn't sure that Loki knows Mosa is a mermaid, much less a princess. I don't know. I feel like Harald. I feel like this Harald and Neptune scene is like deliberately setting this up. Now I'm gonna go back to this scene. Let me see. Because the other thing too, like if Loki has a phone that just goes straight to Shirahoshi, then there's so much plot that can come from that. Because then suddenly Loki gets a call and Shirahoshi's getting kidnapped by Blackbeard or something, you know? And then now we know that, you know, somebody has the ancient weapon, and now it brings us back to Fishman Island. Future of little brat, my little brat, and your shaggy daughter. She will not be shaggy. She's gonna be. This is telling us that Shirahoshi is Mosa, or it's Neptune. But then now I want to look at the dialogue between the two of them, because that's what's going to determine if it's Neptune or Shirahoshi. Weren't people saying that Mosa apparently sounds old? Then it could be Neptune. Aggie CEO said it's clearly Shirahoshi based off manner of speech. So has anybody gone back to the Mosa things with it in their mind that this could be Shirahoshi, looked at the way Shirahoshi talks, and then compared it in the Japanese? Neon Roger spitting. If it's Neptune, he would say Jamon War, right? Yeah, exactly. He has the affect where he says Jamon after everything that he says. So people would have known that it was Neptune off the bat. Mosa said, "Please don't shout just like Shirahoshi." All right, it's Shirahoshi. Dawn and Dust said it doesn't seem to match. I don't know. I feel like the story's telling us it's Shirahoshi now. And until we see anything otherwise, we've just got a very general, typical manga anime trope that I really don't like, but gets us plot. Language pertaining to Mosa is different from Shirahoshi. All right, well then, you know, I don't know. I'm just gonna drop it and we're gonna see what it is. Just KKII, super appreciate it, said, so God's Knights only have 13. Wonder, does that include the 5 elders? Does Emu have a limit, or is it to keep an inner circle? Oda loves superstition. I think it's an arbitrary number to keep the balance of power. You got 4 emperors, you got 7 warlords, you got 13 holy knights. The official translator thought Mosa was Shirahoshi back when Mosa was first introduced because the speech is similar. Shirahoshi clearly has a different way of speaking on the phone versus in person. It's a thing. I'm on the Shirahoshi train right now. On the idea that it could be Shirahoshi, not that I like that it's Shirahoshi. Let's make that distinction. But we will see. I think that this is just a way to have a direct line to Fishman Island so we know what happens there once Blackbeard attacks. I'm just going through the chapter again here, guys.
Savage.
Shout out to Luke. Good on all of you who remembered the Shaggy angle. I can barely remember things from a couple chapters ago, let alone before the flashback. Yes, there was a mysterious figure that no one knew who it was, introduced at the beginning of this arc. This chapter seems to confirm that. And from a story perspective, it makes sense that it would be like what were the things that we were introduced to Loki in regards to, right? We didn't even really know about Loki until everything with Big Mom and Lola. So Loki was introduced to us as a character that is that was meant to get arranged marriage, to Lola. Then we meet the character. He's having a conversation with probably who he will end up in a real marriage with. And then there'll be this ancient Oni gigantic mermaid. So I'm just doing my reread here. Now, writer from the news, his name was originally spelled Reuder. So is Oda like changing that, and we have a new romanization for this character's name? I think we could have spent a little more time on the Rocks pirates. Like, instead of just drawing them in panels, like, we could have shown them, like, in action doing something. Wangzhe has a scar now that he didn't have. How did he get it? I don't know. Might have been cool to see. Who gave it to him? These are, like, interesting things to me. Shallow's covenant. It's a mere trace of a bond. Depth's covenant. So it's like you getting these marks must give you some sort of power boost. A mere trace of a bond like implies to me that something has been imbued into him. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Shanks can like do regen and all this other stuff. But then again, why didn't he regenerate his arm? So Shanks never gets to the point of regeneration because he would have gotten his arm back. That's an interesting distinction to make.
Savage.
On this page where we see Garling in his Oda box, is this Shanks? Already here at Shangara? Before getting his scar? So was he already here at the Holy Land? And then there's a little bit of a time jump? Or is it Shamrock with shorter hair? Because I initially read this as Shamrock. Okay. Chaos Pudding also nice call. Shankar being similar to Shangri-La. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like it was the first thing I thought of when I saw it. Ain't Me Too Super said teleportation for base level, undying body at level 2, perpetual youth at level 3. Okay. Like, then I like it, because as long as Shanks could teleport, then I don't care. But I was thinking teleportation was like the last thing. Mark was on the arm. Mark got cut off. No regen. I mean, that would be a crazy weakness. Because then it's just like, okay, like, attack the mark. Like, if you can just break the mark, then that's like a crazy Achilles heel. But maybe they need something like that in order for us to actually get through this. Shanks in this
Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
We first saw him in back before the flashback. In the present? Are you talking about in the present? Shout out to K-Pro N.
Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Appreciate the super, really. The real question is, how good are these God Knights anyway? I seen one lose a hand to a fish, but it didn't grow back. Yeah, these God Knights, they got to so far they haven't done anything like truly spectacular yet. None of them have done anything that I think really lasts yet. That makes them like a real threat to the point where I'm like, oh my god, the God's Knights. And that's the way I want to feel about them. And I don't include Gunko because Gunko is basically just Emu at this moment. Otherwise, yes, they have done something. But, oh yeah, Lord of the Coast, next top 50. Top 30. What are you talking about? Probably top 15. Top 10. Can't help but think back to the ocean dub of DBZ. You just wait until it grows back. When TN lost his arm. The audio's better now, right? I remember there were audio issues earlier. I just want to make sure that like it stayed consistently okay. Since I tried fixing it, getting closer to the mic and lowering the background music. Ain't Me 2, member for 23 months, said Gorosei said 13 were level 2 and above 15 years ago. 12 when you consider Saturn is dead. How many characters are we missing now? Should we be considering the Gorosei in that? Yeah, I'm with Aggie saying I'm not sure that we should. I think that the Gorosei are like their own thing. And then there's 13 Holy Knights, and then there's the Gorosei, and then there's Emu. Luke thinks it's 5 Gorosei and 8 God's Knights. I've upped my gain. Is this better? Like, I don't know if that makes a difference or not. Way better? Okay, cool. Yeah. I want things to be good, guys, so. DK said, pretty sure I heard next chapter makes this the longest flashback in the entire series. I thought the last chapter already made it longer than the Odin flashback. Yeah, this was something we were talking about last week. it's so crazy to me that Harald like is so lost in the sauce that like he can do good things and think of good things like, oh, I'm going to open a school here and all this kind of stuff, but then still think that like, and this is funny too, because it's like Chrissy and I are currently watching The Vow, right? Which is the documentary about the Nixium cult. And this is all brought about because some of you in chat might know that like Michael Rosenbaum did an interview with Allison Mack recently, like on his podcast. That just made me want to dive deeper into all this stuff. And it's so crazy, right? Because like Nixium was this like false ideal of enlightenment, and the people at the upper echelon branded themselves. Now, there were some other elements involved with the branding that I doubt we'll ever see in One Piece. But not, these people that were brought into this, inner circle and things like that weren't all bad. Like, they thought they were doing good things. They thought they were helping people. And I think that there might be an element of, not necessarily Nixium specifically, but maybe, but this idea of cult mentality, and Harald like being one of these vehicles that is just falling for everything. Check Discord. KevDog sent me a tweet from Artur, and it's Emu's giving away devil's powers like it's some kind of subscription service. And it's funny that that's brought up, right? Because as I just talked about the Nixium thing, in the very first episode of the documentary, they show that, like, in a very similar image to what you're showing me here, Kev, it's like 3 different plans. And it's like the 5-day intensive, which was like $2,000, all the way up to like a 16-day intensive, which was like $7,000 or $8,000, and it's insane. And people paid this money and got roped into all of this. So on my reread, I'm at the Holy Land. Fisher Tiger moment. Shanks really facilitated all of this, and that is an exciting prospect for me, because it just goes to show that like there's a plan in place. Just certain things have to happen. Now, what's interesting is he hasn't given Luffy his hat yet. And his hat is his most precious thing that he owns. Where is his hat? His hat's not here. So, did he entrust the hat to someone else during this time? Did his hat get stolen? Did he have to get his hat back? Can you imagine, like, we see Blackbeard's rocking the hat, like, for 3 years. Maybe Benny Beck's got the hat. I was thinking that. Another Roger pirate. Uta? Maybe. Neon said, I like Shanks breaking Fisher Tiger's chains like Rayleigh did on Sabati. Yep. Yep, that's great. There is an element of this in a conversation that this, like, kind of nerfs Fisher Tiger's lore a little bit. You know? Like, he definitely, like, you know... He went to the armory. He created all these explosions. He armed everybody. He did everything. But if Shanks didn't intervene, like, this probably wouldn't have happened. Kept his hat safe in a freezer. Had to get a new one when Ema took it. Is this Shanks' 3D2Y? Pretty much. But it's like, you know, now Shanks is directly responsible for every single thing that Boa Hancock does in her life. Because he is the one who set her free, basically. Jacob said, I have no problem with it. At this point, Oda has shown us there's a lot of unknowns in these legends. Yeah. There's, you know, as we get further and further, there's more angles to everything and more sides to the stories and more perspectives and different POVs. And that's, I mean, that's kind of the fun part about getting to this stage of the story and you know, seeing all of this kind of stuff. He's been through the gauntlet of the lower world, but if entered into a Depths Covenant, it will be an instant boost, like on the level of Shamrock. So, like, they're in both cases, a mere trace, an instant boost. They're getting injected with something. They're getting possessed by something. The branding that they get gives them some sort of power. And it only makes sense that Shanks definitely does enter into this Depths Covenant and is able, I still feel to this day, to be able to draw into some of this, like, you know, demonic-esque power. And that's what makes him such a problem on the Blue Seas. And why he's an emperor. What I want to know is, who is this silhouette helping Koala that Oda decided, no, we're not ready to show this person yet? Like, out of anything in this chapter, out of any single thing in this chapter, that's what I'm most curious about now. Who was talking to Koala? Like, immediately, my mind is asking me, is it Eris? you know. I don't know. Baby koala in 2025. Serious guest said, I feel like it could just be any random slave. Was Hack a slave, though? No confirmation on Hack, but the silhouette, to me, implies that this is a woman helping Koala. I just think, like, if it was meant to just be a random person, I think Oda would have shaded them the same way he shades some of these other randoms. The fact that they're completely silhouette, all black, says that at some point we're going to get another POV of this event where we're behind Koala looking at who this person is. So what this could also be, to just go in even deeper about this, is that when we start getting into more lore about the Revolutionary Army, and maybe there's some sort of other Koala flashback that ties into something, maybe we'll learn that there's somebody else in this world that is very important to Koala and to her story, and Oda is setting this up for later so that when he wants to dive deeper into Koala, we'll know who this person is and what they mean to them. Kev said, okay, this might be completely unhinged, but I'll just say it. Luffy's mom. Well, Luffy was born after this, so yes. And I've definitely drawn this together that Luffy's Luffy's born not, wait, no, 15, no, it's not that he's born after this. This was 15 years ago. It's that there's some sort of connection to Luffy, though. No. Luffy was born when Hancock got captured. So actually, that still works, right? Because if it's Tritoma, then it's like Luffy's born, Hancock and Tritoma, if Tritoma's Luffy's mom, gets captured, and then yeah, this is Luffy's mom. It's possible. Sounds good, DK. I'll catch you later. Yeah, I can't remember the specifics of the theory right now, but I remember going through the timeline and seeing that it's like Luffy's born, and then immediately after, Hancock gets captured and a bunch of people from Amazon Lily. So it's like, if it was a thing where maybe it was known to the world government that Dragon, the most wanted man in the world, had a child, and they were searching for that child. And Hancock gets captured based off of just Tritoma being connected in that way, or some Amazon, because I still feel like Kuma sending Luffy to Amazon Lily specifically had to have been because Kuma knew that that's where Luffy's mother was from. That makes sense to me. So that's why I'm so gung-ho that Luffy's mom was an Amazon. So it's like the connective pieces are there if the world government deliberately captured them because they were looking for Luffy. Because much like looking for Ace, they wanted to snuff out any, more of essentially Garp's line at this point. Well, plus Tritoma died because her heart broke. She couldn't be with her son or dragon. Yeah, there's a possibility for that too. Or, like, some of the other, love disease from Amazon Lily. It seems like it could all just be BS anyway. Luke said, still holding on to my Luffy's descended from Shandy and Stock. So am I. I'm all in on that. I'm all in on that. Alex said, when does Ginny get caught? Could we get a confirmation on who Bonnie's father is? Is Ginny here at this time? I forget if we've done the timeline to see if she was... part of this. Well, Bonnie's what? 12, really? 10? So that wouldn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Ginny gets captured a year after this, yeah. Yeah. You gotta work out all the wrong things to find the right things. So anyway, moving past that scene with Koala. I'm at this Shanks Shamrock conversation now. Let's go, Shamrock. Tell me more about the Holy Land. So that's part of the thing that makes me feel like he's just on a reconnaissance mission. He wants to learn as much as he can, and he's just pretending. He's playing the role of a lifetime here. Especially since he says, I want to be the hero who captures the one responsible for the attack. Any clues? You're the one responsible. Who shot Hannibal? He's a double agent. There's still time to do this once your wound is healed. The wound is so fresh. Could Blackbeard have been captured and been at the Holy Land and fought Shanks there and then went back to Whitebeard. I don't know. I hated everything down there. He wants an Oscar. But I also buy that, like, he is completely truthful in that moment. He hated everything down there because of what the government is doing. It is fresh. Fisher Tiger swiped his bandage eye and was bleeding during that exchange. Really, it just looks like he pulled the bandage off. I don't know. I just need to see the Blackbeard moment before this and understand the timeline. Then getting into all the Ida stuff, like, that all happens pretty fast. I'm not going to look too much deeper into that one. We'll get more of that next week if there's no break. And there's not, which is great. I love me some no break. $11.67. This is a good one, and it gave us a lot to talk about. I'm done with my reread and all of that, so let's take a look back at the chat. Everybody get into, you know, anything that we didn't talk about already, whatever we want to talk about, what the community has been talking about. Let's get into all of this. You know, Roger said that's interesting. So Estrid's village used ergot fungus, which was a cause of the Salem witch trials due to the hallucinations it causes. Estrid was basically a witch, right? In a way, she was kind of like, I don't know if I'd call her a witch. She just seemed like she was an astrologist. She was a fortune teller. I wouldn't think of her any differently than I would Charlie in a way, as far as like this series goes. But ergot fungus, we're saying, is something from the real world and is not a like made up thing that Oda created. Is that what we're saying here? Sven thinks that Shanghar is the Lunarian's former home. Emu might have the Davy D fruit because of sea contracts. Florian triangle creatures might be some of the Galula shipwrights. Well, I do like that we brought up the Florian Triangle in this. And, you know, when they started talking about all this stuff, my head immediately went to Florian Triangle, and I was like, are they talking about those monsters? So that's kind of interesting. And we still have no confirmation or answer to, like, what those things in the Florian Triangle were. Shangara, Shandora. Yeah. Shangri-La means earthly paradise. You know, which is fitting for what Shangara is. In terms of, you know, thinking about it from the Celestial Dragon standpoint. Mythical Himalayan utopia, an enduring happy land isolated from the world. The Shangri-La myth is a modern legend of a hidden earthly paradise in the Himalayas popularized by James Hilton's 1933 novel Lost Horizon. It symbolizes a peaceful, isolated utopia where people live for centuries in harmony with nature. Hilton's fictional paradise was likely inspired by the ancient Tibetan myth of Shambhala, a spiritual kingdom in a hidden valley, which is a place of peace and wisdom in Buddhist tradition. Oh, see, now this is... There we go. Right. The name Shangri-La was coined by British author James Hilton in his 1933 novel Lost Horizon. The story describes a mystical valley where the survivors of a plane crash find a community of ageless, peaceful people. Ageless, peaceful people. Now, the other interesting thing here is survivors of a plane crash. So, could the plane, if Oda really wants to like dive into Lost Horizon here, could it be them falling from the moon or something, and these are the moon people? Ageless check, peaceful not check. Yeah, that's why I was like, ageless, peaceful. And then in common, like, Shangri-La has become like a colloquialism in a way, just for any sort of remote idyllic paradise. You know, so it's like beyond, it's gone beyond the book. Like, you know, people would go someplace like, oh, this is a Shangri-La, you know, something like that. Anyway. Legend is often associated with living in harmony with nature and being free from the materialism of the modern world. Key element of the myth is the prolonged life of the inhabitants, who are said to live for hundreds of years. Some interpretations view Shambhala as not a physical location, but a state of spiritual enlightenment that must be achieved through inner exploration. I think it is safe to say that we're not grasping for straws here. And that this is exactly what Oda wants us to think of when we're looking at this. Space Piece. Lost Horizon's a great movie. I believe it was nominated for Best Picture, but the film has lost scenes and is now replaced with just audio. Most of the film was preserved, though. Yeah, and Roger said, I think Ida survives, but Oda will say she died for now because she doesn't want Loki to rampage again for her. I think she dies, unfortunately, you know, and that's why Mato is like running the bar and all that kind of stuff. It's a mom in One Piece, you know. It's not a flip a coin situation. It's a 99% chance that they're just going to die. That's it. She drank some poison, you know, like it's Hero look all over again. What do we gain? What do we gain by her surviving? Also, I don't know if there's story there. I'll be right back, guys. Cheer, peace. Get out some more questions, and then we'll probably start winding down. Alright, we're back. Oh. Brandon said, I think what happens is Loki sees Ida and Harald die and flips out. His rampage is what prompts Figureland Shanks to stop him which is why he hates Shanks for stopping him. He was cruel as an act. How close are we to Harald's death here at the end? Like how close are we to the present? That year. Yeah, we're still pretty far out. There's going to be at least a decade between this and the Harald stuff, I think. Well, wait. Everything with Harald went down, what, 6 years ago? Is that right? And this would be maybe 12 years ago? Harald dies next year, 14 years ago? So this is back to back? Shanks said he met Harald a year before Harald's death. Loki versus Shanks was 6 years ago. So that means that Harald died during the time that Shanks was undercover with the government. Okay. Okay, we're getting into some interesting territory here, because that means that Shanks might have even been complicit in some of this. So Loki could hate Shanks because he saw him with all of them. Like, he may have teleported to Elbaf. But then how does he get in the good graces of everybody at Elbaf after that? Loki was a pirate for 8 years and got a special bounty.
Savage.
Probably had only a live bounty as like a... You know, maybe there was some sort of stipulation, you know, that he made with the government that they actually, like, stood by. Like, I'll give you everything, but I have a son that, you know, he's probably going to rampage someday and he's got to be protected. Okay, Pro88, appreciate the super. Said, Harald dies for helping Shanks. It's the only way I said it. Okay, so building off of that, right? If Harald recognizes Shanks, right? Maybe we do a flashback within a flashback within a flashback, right? We jump back after we've already jumped forward and we see a little bit of Shanks meeting Harald with Roger or something in Scopper and all that. Or we get it out through dialogue that happened. Shanks tells Harald not to blow his cover and everything like that. Like, he's trying to figure some stuff out. Over the course of all of it, like, he tells Harald things that shake him to his core. Hey, this is a cult. Hey, everybody's evil here. You need to get out. And for whatever reason, Harald finally believes and finally wakes up. This could happen at the Holy Land. This could happen at Elbaf if Shanks goes to Elbaf to actually have this conversation with him. Shanks and Harald become friends. Like, he tries to bring Harald into the inner circle that he already has with, like, Rayleigh and Scopper. Something like that. The Holy Land catches on, and then they attack? I mean, maybe. Like, it's not perfect. I don't like every element of it, but there's... It's a way to make Shanks sort of responsible for it also, which is something that I like, because then he's, like, carrying on, you know, that, and it adds some tension to the whole Loki thing. Shanks was with Gabon when the fight happened, right? So he was already on Elbaf, and he had both of his arms, and he had the Mark of the Abyss. He was already there. That's right. We saw them. They were there on the day that it happened. He was already there. Okay. I'm going to have to go back to that. Did they talk about Harald at all? So that may imply... Alright. I'm starting to get a better handle for the timeline now. So then, Shanks is going to leave the Holy Land pretty soon. And that's probably what we're going to see in the next chapter. Shanks getting exactly what he needed, and then dipping out, going to Elbaf, probably rattling Harald to his core, then sitting in a hot tub with Scopper after doing that. And then Harald gets killed. $11:52. I need to go back to that one. the way Shanks talks about Harald in 1152 implies that like they have a conversation. So we may see that conversation. Okay, yeah, they couldn't speak freely in the Holy Land. They're going to have a conversation, though, that's going to get interrupted. That's what this is telling me. And Shanks really wanted to talk to him, so he came to Elbaf kind of to talk to him. But it gets interrupted. But whatever they end up actually having a conversation about, though, that's, yeah. So this, I think we're gonna see a little more of this. Shanks says that they got along all right. But what we see in this chapter is him yelling at him, calling him a lumbering peon. And then Harald, once again, like, noticing Shanks. So we're gonna... I think we're gonna see that... wait, where did they say Harald was at the end of this? He's busy with his job. Yeah, so Harald is probably at the Holy Land right now. And then we'll see something where, like, they're in some alleyway, they're in some private room, and Shanks is trying to, like, have a conversation with Harald, but it's going to get interrupted. But whatever they're going to say is going to be enough for Harald to, like, start changing things around. And then they don't want Shanks and Harald to finish that conversation, so they kill him. That might be it. Yeah, he was trying to keep Harald from mentioning where he saw him. So they have to have a conversation. I think that's like a definite thing that's going to happen in 1168. And at that point, there's an opportunity here to get all the way to the, like, Domi Reversi by the end of the next chapter. I don't know if Harald dies in the next one, but I think we get to that timeline. Depends on how much Oda wants to spend, like, characterizing Loki and Hirudim for us. Because he could spend 5 pages on that, just like them dealing with Ida's death and all that. Harald dealing with that. But being away while it happens, that crushing him. There's gonna be some drama in the next one. Next one's gonna be a hard chapter for sure. If it's a normal 3 weeks on, 1 off, next week should be a cliffhanger of how Harald died, yeah. Still lining up with what I've been saying, that I don't know if we see Luffy at all for the rest of the year. Or if we do, it's going to be like the last page of the very last chapter of the year. And I'm okay with that. I love it. Ooh. Leo Legendario. I think Hyrodin will bring Kureha to try and heal Ida. That's interesting. So then when she's yelling at Chopper, it's because she already, like, has dealt with people dying from poison. I don't think we need that, but that is fun. I do think that, like, I don't know why we haven't seen Kureha in some of these, like, old, like, chapters. I feel like she should just be all over this stuff from, 100 years ago. Oh, whatever. Well, I think I've gotten through everything that I can think of for this one. Probably go for like another 2 minutes here. We're already at 2 hours. Send your final thoughts in, guys, and then we'll wrap things up, and we'll see everybody for 1168 in a week. Kureha should be involved in the Mountain Eater event with Copper saving Roger. It'll be fun. Kaban, when he sees Kureha, Mom, what are you doing here? I, like, but that wouldn't surprise me, She's 140 years old, 41. She's got to have kids out there. Maybe multiple. It's like we start getting into Louis Arnault. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Kureha was in a romantic relationship with Louis Arnault, a famous explorer from 100 years ago. He's the one that named Little Garden, and Kureha is the one that says to Nami, like, oh, you've been traipsing around a prehistoric island, huh? It's like, why would she know that? Unless she was with Louis Arnault, something like that. Like, Mizukame said, did Whitebeard come across Garling during God Valley? Since when Shanks met him, he said, that face makes this scar ache. Maybe he fights Garling later on. Or Shamrock. When you go back to that scene, it does almost imply that Whitebeard knows about Shanks' lineage. Which might be something that we, when we get the full, probably towards the end of the series, we'll get that full conversation between Roger and Whitebeard in the Cherry Blossom Field. I feel like that'll be like literally one of the last 10 chapters of the series or something like that. And it's just Roger telling Whitebeard everything. He may drop that he knows that Shanks is from a different family or something, like, could be something like that. Kureha was the first one to say Goldie Roger. She knew Roger likely from the Mountain Eater event. I mean, if that's a big enough event for that to happen, it's also, if her son, started following the guy, she would know his name. Neon said it still bugs me Korea's 2 years younger than Mother Carmel. They know each other. Came from the same coven. Of course, music comedy. You got it. Yeah. All right. I think I'm done for this week, guys. I think we've pretty much hit everything that we could possibly hit for this one. This one was a lot of fun. And I think worthy of being a follow-up to 967. A lot of lore, a lot of things to talk about. We were not short on things to discuss this week, and the things in this chapter will become things that we will continue to talk about for weeks, if not months to come, I'm sure. So thank you for everybody that came and joined today. As always, appreciate you all. Thankful for all of you. And 1168 next week. There we go. All right, guys. Bye. Yes, we need that buggy lore. I need that buggy lore ASAP. That's my biggest disappointment from this chapter. We just skipped over the buggy lore. But we'll get it. We'll get it. Get it. When we're supposed to. Later, everybody.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.